I was muted. I did half my intro and we were muted. I apologize for that. I hate that you missed that part. But let me start over. Scratch that. Yeah, that was my fault. The sound was 100% muted. It's very confusing because now I have an XLR thing where you have to mute it on that device, but not the not on the actual like coloring on the mic. So really, really interesting, believe it or not. So we have a ton, way more to talk about than I originally thought. I thought that this was going to be a let's go over the banned and restricted announcement. Let's, do a couple other things, right? We got some new cards to talk about. We got, all of these things. Well, a little bit more got added to the plate. We got some Nat stuff that we got to go over because of something that just got put out by Peter over at MinMax Games, and we gotta cover it. We have to do our part to kind of assess the situation, see what's going on, and are we making a tier list? Okay, so officially, of course, we can't do one this week because due to spoiler season being the way it is, we have gotten, I don't even think we actually have half the set, believe it or not. But next week, we have to do the tier list. And that's because the week after, on Wednesday, I will be in Las Vegas. So it's my only shot. So 110% will be doing the tier list next week. 110%. It will do the big one where we have a new set. We're going to break down new heroes. We're going to say, are they good? Are they C tier syndrome material? We're going to do all that, right? And let's do a spoiler season per set tier list. That's actually not a bad idea, actually, because this one would not be high on there, which is crazy because if you look at the videos that people are making, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it was something about, I guess, the pirate theme that just like made people make videos like you have, just a bunch of the videos were just really good, but they weren't like over the top. They weren't like, it wasn't the effort that was, it was just that they were just like, I don't know, they had that natural aspect to them, and I really enjoyed it. You had Ethan's, right, with his grandpa in the Navy. I was in the Navy for 7 years, so I, obviously I'm a little bit biased there. But then you also had the Sunflower Samurais. Was hilarious, just them running around with swords chasing each other. Like, it was simple, but I don't know, it was just good because I just felt like I don't know, I just felt like everybody was natural, and it was like that's the kind of stuff that I definitely I enjoy. I really enjoy it. And so like the content aspect of it has been phenomenal. The problem is there wasn't that much, and it was 3 days. So that's kind of what the problem is, really. With that being said, the one thing that we're going to go ahead and cover it. So Peter from MinMax Games just put out a video. When I say just put out, I mean like 30, 45 minutes ago. Just put out a video on the Nats supply distro situation. Basically, I'm going to give you a summary. I do encourage you to go over to his channel and watch it. So that way you don't just take my word for it and my interpretation, but I'm going to do the best that I can. And basically, distro called him and said, look, one of two situations are going to happen. One, and he said the premise behind it was that like air freight is not as reliable as it used to be. And basically he said that there's going to be one of two situations. Either there'll be no early product, right, for people to buy. There'll be stuff for like pre-releases and stuff like that. But like the whole can buy extra product on release day for the US to have time for Nats, all of that would be like a wash. And then the other scenario is things play out as they were expected. The main thing that I want to preface on that video, and one thing that I was, as I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, so Peter presented two options. How can I logically, because having two 50-50s doesn't really do anybody any good, right? Like yes, it's of value because you know there's two options that can play out. Yes, but like ideally you want to know which one's more likely, right? And I want to offer a piece of, a piece of thought, if you will, on why I think one is much more likely than the other, which is speculation, but hear my thought process and maybe it's sound. My thought process is the distro contacted Peter, okay? Distribution. And when that happens, okay, if a business is in a situation where something could happen, let's say, I'm just going to make up an example. Let's say you are an auto manufacturer and there's a fault with one of your vehicles, right? The doors don't lock right or whatever, right? There's a known issue, but you don't know how bad it is. You don't know if it's really an issue. It's just been reported, right? You don't immediately stand up and just start screaming from the rooftops, oh, we got lock problems, this and that, this and that. No, you look into it. You make sure it is very likely that it's a persistent issue. Basically, what I'm trying to convey is the moment a business announces something that could be deemed negative, it's very likely to be the case because there can be damage done by just announcing it, right? If you're an auto manufacturer and you announce a fault with your vehicle, then you're, that's not a good look. Now, this is not a one-for-one example. I'm just trying to give you an example, right? So because the distribution is the one making the announcement, I would say that it's much more likely that that is what's actually going to happen from a business standpoint. Does that mean it's like 100%? Does it mean it's 90%? Hell no. I'm just saying that I don't think it's 50-50 is what I'm saying. So that is what it is, right? Like that just is, there's nothing we can do about it. We're kind of like just at, that's what I said watching his video. Why make the video if the more negative is likely to happen? Right, exactly. So I'm thinking that scenario is the more likely case, right? Which basically what we can very quickly come to the realization of what that would look like as far as what it would do to Nat season and it being so close. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I mean, that is a great example of what to do. The problem is you can't prep for it. There's like the only logical preparation you can make is, okay, I want to play this deck that requires cards from high seas, but let me have a backup deck, right? But we already only have a week to prep. So now you have to prep too for both situations. Like the time is so short, we can't prepare. And that's where I want to kind of drive the conversation into. I'm going to address this whole situation one last time because there was some discourse on Twitter that I don't think kind of I don't think they really kind of it was a little short-sighted. Okay, and I'll explain. If you have, I'll give you basically there's one mentality that you can have, and like tariffs and the whole freight situation is completely out of LSS's hands, right? And that is correct, right? There's nothing that LSS can do about tariffs. There's other companies that have more money that are just going to bully the space on those shipping lanes. That is what's going to happen. That is in no way LSS's fault. However, and it's a big however, I'm going to once again give you an analogy that is probably very relatable to yourself on a personal level. When we were in grade school, how many times did we have a test that was due or a project that was due? And like we all do, we wait till the last moment and something completely out of our hands happens. Let's say you get into a car accident or a person in your family gets sick on that last day, the day before, where you were planning on doing the assignment and the assignment didn't get done. And we all hopefully learned a very important lesson, and that is that when the event that occurred in the time was in none of your control. But to throw up your hands and say, I had nothing to do with that, is a fallacy. Okay? It's just not true. In that situation, in that example that I gave, we took a chance. We had many opportunities to do that assignment, and we actively chose not to. And something happened because we took a lot of risk, and that's the way the cards landed. And that's just how it is. And the whole Nat situation is the exact same thing, just in reverse timeline, right? Whereas they had a whole bunch of time to schedule these Nats. They could have done it the traditional 1 week and then 1 week after, and or maybe even a week after. But no, when you budget all the way to the edge, you take on the maximum amount of risk, right? Now, that's not the whole equation, right? Because maybe there's an upside. Maybe it does induce more hype, and there's a marketing aspect of it, and there's all these other aspects to it. Maybe the upside is truly there and it's warranted. But that does not mean that you willingly accepted a much higher amount of risk. And you do not, in that situation, you flat out do not have the ability to say, oh, it wasn't my fault. I didn't get in the car accident the day before my assignment was done. It wasn't on me, even though I, had 2 weeks to do it. I waited till that day, and that day event happened. You don't get to say that. So LSS took a larger amount of risk by restricting the timeline, and then world events happened. World events completely out of their control, but that does not change the fact that they took a risk and it did not pay off. In fact, the worst of the situation happened, right? Like it actually negatively impacted the situation, regardless of whether. And I've gotten a lot of DMs today about stores. Like previously, it was like they're getting 20% of what they usually get, and now they're getting like 4 ways where it's getting any better. And I'm not here to doom. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm just trying to give people the information so they can make, their own opinions or whatever the case, or best prepare for what your plans are. Poor's in shambles. Vera's got the point. And apparently my face is used to notify people that their allocations have been cut. My pre-orders got massively reduced. Went from 10 cases to 2. That's exactly what is pretty much happening across the board. And it's not because of hype for the set. Yes, there's a lot of hype for the set. Yes, there's a lot of, demand and all of these other things. But I don't know. It's a rough situation. It's tough. It really is tough. But I just wanted to address that one last final left on red. Good game, well played. Enjoyed 120 in singles from Bender's son. I like Vero's idea of when we're sitting down at Nats, we're going to aggressively shake the packs for draft and then ask for replacements, and that's how we're going to get product. It's like our only shot. I like that idea from Vero. Glad to be skipping US Nats. Well, I'm happy to be going, but I am so thrilled that I love to play poker because that is a great alternative if stuff really does just shit the bed. So I'm excited to have that backup right down the road, give or take. Don't even have to leave the building technically, which is the amazing part of it. So I just wanted to cover. Hang on, let me let the cat out. He's scratching on the door. Sorry about that. Hell's Kitchen levels of cooking. Oh man, in your strong opinion, what percentage of product would an average consumer receive? And what percentage would a distro accessible store receive? I mean, that you can't really answer that question, right? Because like MinMax probably gets thousands of boxes. Or my local LGS in Alabama might get 3 cases, right? Like it's just so astronomically wild the difference that it can be. So it really, really just depends on. But overall, from what I've been hearing, it's basically everybody's been cut from 50 to 80% less than what they normally receive. That's not factoring in the fact that they probably asked for more because the hunted went so well. So, I've even seen some messages where people are cutting the amount of players they're allowing in their pre-release. That's like the level. Stop seeing it as US Nat. Start seeing it as Las Vegas with the boys. See, Pierre's got the right idea. I'm already there. I've been there. Trust me. What stakes for poker are we talking about? 1, 2. So I've played 1, 2, 1, 3. That's where I started out. I used to grind poker back in the day, and then I moved up to 5, 10, which was kind of where my comfort zone was. I did try 10, 25 for a little bit. The sizing got me a little nervous to make really aggressive plays when it made a lot of sense on the EV. So I found that the number on the 10, 25 games was kind of influencing my play a little bit. So I stepped back down to kind of like 5, 10. And I found that 5, 10 was my sweet spot, personally. I'm not a big tournament player. I've played in a couple, but not a lot. Not a lot. But cash games is where I grinded. I went to like I think I played probably 15, 20 hours a week for 2 years. 2 years straight, probably. We got some hours in the game, to say the least. But it'll be fun. It'll be a blast. It was a blast last time because like all the fab players would come. I was playing with Pat from Runaways, and it was a blast. Had a great time, and hopefully I get to do the same. So, but yeah, that's a tough question to answer. That you really can't. You just really can't. Like I've seen it all over the place. Some not that bad, some astronomically bad. Might have to see how good the new Florian card is from the high seas. I mean, I would love to have some expansion slot cards right now, but for some reason, we don't. So I don't know why. I'm not. I don't even know what to say. I don't understand it. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad thing. My personal opinion, I guess I am going to say it because I'm about to say it. I don't think that this spoiler season structure is ideal, but that is just my opinion. I don't have any logic behind it or just the fact that it was 3 days. It was super short. There wasn't that many cards. So it was like 7 or 8 cards a day. And then that was it. We still don't have a fucking weapon for Gravy Bones. Vera was talking about they're just going to sell you the armory deck and not even know what the cards are in it. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand it. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm just going to say that I've spent some time thinking about it and I don't get it. I don't understand the reasoning. I don't understand the upside. Maybe you're all in on the world premiere and trying to make it maximum enjoyment for those people, but they spoiled way more stuff for Rosetta, and it felt fine for being at the premiere. Once again, I don't know. I don't know. I've played since Crew first and have been without a hero since Icelander left. I was looking forward to a new hero, and this has me very bummed. I mean, it could still be on the table, but if they held back a hero and giving us less time, bro, people are going to go wild and not in a good way. There's going to be some people that are really happy for the return of the hero, and then everybody else is going to have pitchforks. It's not going to be good. Not going to be good. The season was garbage. This is one of the toughest releases we've ever had from every angle. Well said, Sam. Well said. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. So I don't put the L back in LSS. I mean, I don't look. I've said it before. I support the idea of taking chances in doing things different to test. So I try to never criticize when somebody tries something once, unless it's day one Nats. Then you're just getting roasted. Now, and the only reason that that's happening is because it's turning out to be a disaster because you took an enormous amount of risk and it didn't pan out. Simple as that. Like that's the equation, right? Right. And then there's a fable that's supposedly extremely playable, which is just thinking about it. Just need to take a breather. Chat. My blood's starting to boil a little bit. I'm trying to keep it calm. This whole stream, we tried to kick it off with like a positive spin on some confrontation about the LL changes and stuff like that, and it's not going the way we designed. It really is not. We're gonna try to fix that. That's what we're gonna try to do. But we will see. I wanted to hop on and say that your takes on the larger meeting were spot on. Big W from you and your level-headed opinions all around. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Nathan losing his cool is Jover. I mean, look, Shamir, I'm trying here. I'm trying, but some days it's harder. Some days it's a lot harder. Oh man, and the code full being in the treasure packs will make the packs much more expensive. I'm all for the treasure packs. I'm hoping that the cards. I hope the Fabray images don't do it just, and it looks a lot better. Because it looks it looks like somebody just like pissed on the card. I don't know. I'm hoping that's just like a resolution thing. I don't know. But there's nothing to be positive about this. It's a huge blunder. I mean, it could be. It could be. I don't know. What do you think about the Living Legend multiple? Oh, we're gonna get into all that. Okay, that's what the stream was originally supposed to be about. That's why we turned the camera on. But then we just got all that news. We had to discuss it, and Vera, why do you keep typing in brown? I don't understand. What's happening? It's easy to be a critic. A critic. I don't get. Why does everybody? What am I missing? What am I missing? Oh my God. Team Sigil, man. Team Sigil. Hopefully, it's easy to be LSS accomplished incredible feats for what? Yeah, I mean, yeah. No, they've done a phenomenal job. Nobody's denying that. But in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think one of the most dangerous places a person could ever be is in a room full of people that think you can do no wrong. I think that's a very dangerous place to exist. And so, yes, they've done a phenomenal job, and I'm sure that they will continue to. But when something happens, it is very important to provide feedback. Or else we run a higher risk of it happening again. And is that better for the game? Or is it better for the game to... Oh my God, what is the brown? You got somebody saying blue. I don't understand. All right. Huge toxic positivity issue. I mean, and that's what it can result into. I'm not saying that it exists. I'm just saying that is the extreme version of it. And I don't want, you should always be vocal about something. Even if 90% of people are going to take it as you just bitching to the air, then that's fine. But if it's grounded in logic and it's thought out and you're not like insulting people, like I'm not calling anybody a dumbass for making a decision. I'm saying they took a risk and they got burned. It's that simple. I even gave them the benefit of the doubt that the risk was worth it, right? I said, maybe the hype and stuff is like worth it on a marketing perspective, but it just did not pan out. And now we all got to pay the price. That's all I'm saying. Literally that simple. Hopefully things end up getting delayed. I mean, there's nothing you can do now. We're in for the ride. The only positive is that we're all in the same boat. See, that's one way to look at it. So if your LSS situation is as bad as it is beginning to sound, what the heck is plan B? There is no plan B. I guess there's a theoretical scenario where you could make Nats not have high seas legal, but that is That seems rough. I don't think that would be worth it. Because then a whole bunch of people scrounging to get cars. Now they don't need them, and I don't know. It's a tough spot. It is a tough spot. What news did I miss that we talked about already? Basically, the allocation situation is getting worse. Peter from MinMax posted a video on it. James White is contradicting himself with the treasure packs. That's interesting. I don't understand where that line's being connected. I'm so angry that no local stores have Rosetta or Hunted. Their allocation sizes are too small. I mean, that's just a logistics thing, right? It could be competing with printer space with Pokemon. It could be because I mean, you can't even put Pokemon on a shelf right now, right? Like people are fighting each other over pallets at Sam's. I mean, all kind of stuff. So, Project Brown, what is happening? B to the R to the O to the W N. Okay. I feel like this is a trap. What risk, what burn? So I gave the example that if I wait till the last minute to do my homework and something happens completely out of my control and I don't do my homework, that's my fault. Right? Because I had X amount of time preceding that event to accomplish the homework. They're just doing the reverse. They could have easily planned it a week out, 2 weeks out, whatever the case may be, but they chose to condense the schedule, which means if anything happens, it's magnified almost infinitely because you have no time to adapt. You have no time to come up with solutions. You have no time for the community to come up with solutions. Nothing. That's the risk. And the tariff situation in world events is the burn. I feel like some people are afraid to voice their opinions because they will lose fab. Who knows though? I started to see a lot of that after the celebration, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people, I don't know if people thought that if they just said nice stuff all the time, maybe they get to go. I don't know, but I did pick up on that idea around that time. Not saying that there's any validity behind it. I'm just saying it's an observation that I've made. People are always more critical and negative than even the Starvo days. We've honestly changed. Yeah, because I think the critic aspect of it is based on relativity, not absolute, right? So was the Starvo situation bad? Yes, but we had Jane, we had Prism. On a relative scale, was it that bad? It's a debate to be had. You can't delay US Nats, just make high seas not late. I mean, like I put that one forward, but I don't like the way that sounds. I don't know. I think the only issue I have is that we discussed yesterday about the multiplication of older heroes. I'm fine with the rest as long as they're more aggressive with bans. Yeah, we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about the whole BNR. We're going the do's, the don'ts, the good, the bad. Next week is officially the tier list, the high seas tier list. That's assuming there's enough allocation for me to get the little icons for the tier list. If I can get allocate, I'm sorry, that was wrong. that was kind of funny though. That's kind of fun. If I can get the appropriate allocation of hero icons, then I will do the high seas tier list next week. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Pretty much every TCG is having massive sales, acting flabbergasted, and like printing more cardboard isn't ever an option. Yep. Our local allocations are fine. Maybe it's different distro. Who knows? I have no clue. Pokemon prints their own cards. They bought the printer company a few years back. Do they? Who knows? Who knows? Allocation joke savage. I thought it was decent though. I thought it was a decent one. Heard somewhere that Gravy might not have a weapon. I'm a new player. I mean, there's two scenarios, right? If you look at the way the cards are mapped out in the set, it cannot be a token. That leaves two options. His weapon is going to be either in the expansion slot, like Hunter's Clave was, right? Or what the fuck is Project Brand? What are you talking about? What is happening? Y'all are not about to make me Google this. There's no way. There's no way. I've no fucking clue. Or it's in the or it's in the armory deck. That's the two options. Either an expansion slot or in the armory deck is the current speculation. But we'll see. We'll see. Currently it looks, unless a mistake has been made, currently it looks like there isn't one for limited. And what would also confirm that is if you look at the armory promos and all the cold foil weapons, there's only 5, 2 for Puffin, 2 for Marlin, and then 1 for Gravy. So that also would confirm, right? Because if it did exist in limited, there would be 6. There wouldn't be 5. So that's currently the theory. Don't know if it's true. Who the fuck knows? Just saying. Will you be in the watch party and the TheCardGuyz get scored tomorrow night? I have to record something at 8, and then I'll be in there after probably for a few hours until I fall asleep. I just don't want to be. I'm not trying to turn into Will and just sit there and snore in the Discord. It's always funny when it happens. You just hear the slightest little, and it's just we have to throw him in the AFK channel. It's too good. It's too good. What is? Hang on, I gotta figure this out. There's no way I'm Googling this right now. What? I don't understand what it is. I don't understand what it is. I have no clue. Everybody's just gonna keep posting in there because why not? My guess is the armory deck. I mean, I don't know. I hear a lot about what LSS is doing wrong, but I don't hear much about actual well thought out ideas they could implement efficiently. Everyone is always a critic, but not always constructive. I do agree with that 100%. And that is why every time I throw something out there, I try to give that. I try to give the constructive aspect, present the solution to the problem you're complaining about, however you want to phrase it. I do try and approach it in that way. My constructive criticism for the Nats event would be don't start an event an hour and a half after a product releases. That's my recommendation. Like, put Briar back in the game is another recommendation that I would definitely make 110%. I feel like everybody is just. Wait a second. I get it. And there's no way you put that in there, Vera. There's no way. Guys, stop putting Brown in the chat. It's a trap. Oh God, Vera, that was wrong. Well played, but it was wrong. Oh God. Wonder. My recommendation is that if you are telling people they can buy product at pre-releases, make sure the product is available. Yeah, but like that part of the problem is not their fault. They can't control tariffs and the rush to ship and all of that, right? You've played Project Brown before? What are y'all talking? Hang on. Is everybody just sitting in Discord talking about this? What is happening? What is actually happening? I'm lost. Yeah, that aspect of it is not their fault because, but them relying on that because of the close scheduling. Yes. Pushing the entire NATS plus PT circuit 2 to 3 weeks later would give more time for everyone to get everything without much rush and FOMO. I think 2 to 3 weeks is a little long because then it'd be very easy to kind of solve the format in that amount of time. They have always done it historically, always. 1 week after release, right? Set comes out a week later or 2 weeks is kind of like the theme. 2 to 3, a little bit long, but like 1 to 2 is like, I don't know. I just have to be convinced. Why did we stray away from that? And I don't know the answer. I don't think he's going to have a weapon. Thematically, Necros don't use weapons. I mean, replace High Seas with a good warrior card. Problem solved. I've already spoiled the warrior expansion slot card. It's going to say +3 to your next, I don't know, sword with no hilt, target attack. Gets go again if it's on a Thursday. It's funny because like the warrior cards are like every time they come out with a warrior set, they separate the card pool by weapon type. So they made everything. It's like 2-hand sword, and then they'll make a bunch of another cards. They'll go 1-hand sword, and then a whole bunch of other cards. They'll say, oh, these only apply to axes. And these only apply to 1-hand axes. And then now we're on to daggers, and then they'll make another weapon type, and they'll just keep going. And I'm not saying that it's bad design. I'm just saying that that's the way it is. And and it's probably because Warrior's one of those classes that can get broken really easily. I mean, that's entirely true. They have too much access to go again or zero cost reacts. Like, it could probably get stupid. So, in my opinion, tariffs only affect your country currently. I'm hearing it's affecting a much wider region. Yes, it's only affecting my country, but them having to prioritize the US because of the US NAT scheduling will affect all the other countries. So yes, I agree, but I think it exacerbates the problem because they have to like flood this market before everybody else gets their product. Over under on if Nathan realized Project Brown exists. I mean, I have no fucking clue what everybody's talking about. Allocation micros. Oh God. Gravy seems underwhelming. I was watching We Make Best stream. Gravy was getting absolutely cooked against aggro. I mean, it could. Our results are kind of like he's fine. He's not amazing. He's not. But once again, we're still waiting on a whole ass armory deck and half a set. So who the fuck knows, you know? Earlier I took a Project Brown with corn. Yeah. Team Sigil's just gonna keep throwing it out there. Okay. Golly. It's never as simple as it seems. There's no fourth here. There's no. I mean, don't get me wrong. It would be like hype for the people opening it, but man, like you can't be doing that and then waiting till the last second to have the event. And I don't know. I don't know. Okay, let's go ahead and dig into the oh God. Okay. So I just want to kind of like give some thoughts. And I do believe that the bans were very well done. We did a very, very good job at predicting what was going to happen. Our final prediction was a Ranger card if the upcoming set warranted it. That was not a word. Warranted it. And obviously they deemed that it did not, so that didn't happen. And that was pure speculation. So that wasn't a real, we predict this being banned. But what we said was we knew Scepter was going to go. And then we said we had to pick one of several options, right? And I don't remember if Germinate was in there, but we knew it would be Scepter plus a card on Florian. And that's what ended up happening. And then we said for Giga Fatigue Bravo to not become a very similar problem, that either Remembrance or CYB had to go. And that's exactly what they landed on. And then we even mentioned that bonds could get unbanned. And they did the correct line of just unbanning one color of it, which is very ideal because at 9 of it would just get degenerate. So we did really good on that prediction. So I'm not going to say I did really good because we just ran the stream. We did some brainstorming. We came up with some good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and I don't know anything about Blitz. I'm going to keep it a buck, right? Like I couldn't tell you what heroes are legal in Blitz. I couldn't tell you what's currently banned in Blitz. Oh, I can tell you these 4 cards are. I can tell you that much. But these seem fine. I just don't know what to say, right? And I guess this is where the discussion actually happens. So, and one thing I want to mention here with the ban, I think this was a very good play on Brian's behalf to hit Scepter of Pain, to force Florian into mid range, and then hitting Germinate to make him a little bit susceptible to being fatigued. Is actually a very interesting line to take on the ban. So, really well done on this, and of course the reasoning as well. And with the Living Legend changes, now the cards are kind of irrelevant because this is going to change again before the next big one. I guarantee you, they're going to spend some more time and realize this. One, this ain't going to stay. I am willing to bet, unless they just want Icelander to be like ridiculous, then I don't see this being a thing. My opinion. But we will see. Are you guys gonna have a show match with Team? What the fuck is happening? Oh my god. Oh my god. You've talked to the entire chat to lean into it. My god. This is terrible. This is terrible. Okay. So the biggest thing that we have to talk about is two things. The point distribution change, and then we have to also talk about it being a part of the World Championship. I think that's like the 2 points of contention in this article in regards to LSS. And the title of the stream was, is LSS cooking, or are they not, basically? I just read the chat. I just read the DM pair. Okay, it makes sense. It all makes sense now. It's actually way more funnier because everybody's going along with it and they have no clue. It's actually, Shamir, thank you for taking one for the team. Oh, it's actually funny. Okay. Anyway. So let's talk about the point distribution. Well, no, let's actually talk about worlds first, because I think it's like probably maybe the most pressing, maybe not. But the current sentiment is that essentially the idea is that a lot of people have is that we in the past year have had some balance issues. I think it's a fair statement. We had Zen having to get 3 different bands to get to an appropriate level. We had the should have hit, and the needle band being a little bit late, and there's just been a lot of contention around that topic. I think it's a fair statement. And with that being said, there's a lot of people that are saying, well, if they're having trouble balancing CC, how are they going to be able to do that and LL? And of course, it's a valid, logical line being drawn. I'm not going to fight that, because it's effectively the same thing as somebody that it gives the image that maybe they're putting a little bit too much on their plate, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. We don't know. Maybe they've hired 3 people this week into the dev team to literally just focus on LL. You just don't know these things, right? You don't know what resources they have allocated to this change, right? And that's why I have not stated whether I think it's, a bad idea or not. And because at the end of the day, what you have to do is you have to give people the opportunity to succeed or fail. You have to basically give them a shot, right? Because if you just assume they're going to not do it, then it really puts them in a tough spot to where basically no matter what they do, they lose. And then vice versa, right? Because the margin is so thin at that point. Whereas if you just have like a leveled approach, then, it is what it is. So I understand the logic behind people saying that. However, I think it's grossly unfair to say that, if the article did not say they have allocated more resources, then Okay, I get it. I understand that. But it does say that. And I think we got to give them a shot, right? And if it doesn't work out after the first 2 or so events, then yeah, if we have another crack an Aether Vein situation, then roast the shit out of them, right? I'll do it as well. And, I'll make sure that feedback is given on the scenario, and just because that's what we're going to do. And, but we got to give them a shot. We got to give them a shot to knock it out of the park. Because, I think they deserve at least that. I think that's extremely fair. And the second thing, and as far as my opinion on Living Legend being at Worlds, it's a tough one, right? Because I'll kind of explain my evolution of my thought process on this topic. And it first started with the balance problem, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to is it gonna be balanced? Am I gonna just get to a certain point in the tournament and then just say, Jesus, take the wheel, right? Like we don't know. And so I said, but that's really out of my control. And like I mentioned earlier, we have to give them the shot to succeed in that situation. So let's just assume that it works. The second thing is, well, I have to learn now a third format for an event. And I very quickly got over that because it's the World Championship, right? Like, I don't think going to the World Championship of a card game, it is too much to ask a player to learn 3 formats. It would be the worst idea on the planet for a national level event, but Pro Tour or Worlds, I think it's fair game. Is it my ideal situation? Probably not, to be honest, because it just makes it more time consuming. Although I had a roller coaster of an event at the Chicago LL Calling. During the calling, I played Viserai, and it was one of the worst Flesh and Blood experiences in the past 5 years I've ever had. However, the next day, I played RuneGate Chain, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in the game of Flesh and Blood. So as far as where I land on it, I don't actually know. I don't actually know if I'm, all in on it or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Simple as that. I will say that is my opinion, it may be a little early. I don't think that. I mean, also with these bans, they've basically, in putting it in Worlds, they've really changed the design of what Living Legend is, because it was my understanding that Living Legend was the format you were going to play if you just wanted to do wild, degenerate shit, right? Like if you wanted that Yu-Gi-Oh-esque kind of game, then you went to that. But that's no longer going to be the case. Now it's just going to be a higher power CC, right? Because you have to keep it in check. And anytime you keep it in check, all you're doing is you're reducing the delta between two heroes. And you keep doing that, you overall lower the power level of the format. You have to, or it's not balanced. And with that being, so they completely changed the entire purpose of that format. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. I'm just saying that Living Legend never really even got a chance in what its previous idea was. Like it never even had the chance to come to fruition. Period. It didn't. And it's already something else. And maybe they got the data they needed, right? Maybe I'm not saying this is the case, but maybe they were like, okay, we had a calling, only 200 people showed up, or however many showed up, and they were like, okay, maybe this isn't the direction. Let's pivot it into something more kind of competitive, balanced oriented, but just higher power for people that like to do stronger things. Then okay, but I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Your logic makes you sound like my dad. What's next? You're gonna leave milk and not come back? I mean, doesn't sound like a terrible idea. Can we get 2 good formats before trying a third? Yeah, I knew Vera was gonna pipe up on that one. I knew it. LL at Worlds is an oof. I think LL has historically never been balanced since its inception. Pierre, I agree, but I honestly, do you think they've ever tried? Like honestly, like the Kraken Aethervane situation. Like, I gotta be careful the way I say this. They said on the dev talk that they knew it was there and stuff like that. And I'm sure they did. I'm sure they have it in a drawer somewhere with a sticky note on it that says "Watch out for this card." But they didn't test it in that current LL iteration. There's no shot that they did. If they played one game with that deck, they immediately, within 24 hours, would have put out a ban announcement because it was the most egregious shit on the planet. There's no. So my argument is yes, LL has never been balanced. I 100% agree with you. But I would counter that idea with I truly believe they've never tried. I think they spent a day on it, maybe 2, and they were like, oh, well, how do we taper down Starvo a little bit because his representation was too high at that one battle hardened event, and things like that. But there is no shot that anybody from LSS prior to that event, leading 3 months up to the event, played a single game of LL with Kraken Aethervane. There's no, did I say Kraken Aethervane? There's no shot. There's no shot that they did, and I'm not going to be gaslit into saying that they did. There's no way. I don't care what. It is factually apparent that they didn't play a single game with that card. There's no way. And I'm not saying that's a mistake, right? Let me clarify. They have limited resources. They're just trying something. The LL in that current state may not have warranted that. Like, that's entirely plausible, right? But I don't know. LL being at that event seems also be a step to introduce the 2 new LL deck. I mean, yes, but I don't understand the angle on, right? Cause it's the world championship. Like, nobody is going to the world championship is going to buy. I mean, I guess people watching the world championship knowing that they might have to. Okay, I can draw the lines there. Okay, I'm just gonna get the 1 or 2 card that's unique if it's playable, and I'm just gonna move on. Right. I think LL is still too young of a format to be competitive. 100% agree. That's why my opinion is I'm okay with it. I think they're just a year early. That's like my final opinion on it. I 100% agree. They have also made the game 2 times more expensive now. All the new cards no one can get will spike. I mean, yeah, entirely possible. And now the old cards everyone needs will also spike. That is entirely plausible as well. Considering that we'll have a PQ season and likely a PT with LL, I'm sure they will get in a good spot before Worlds. They basically have to, right? They don't have a choice. I mean, there's just no option. They have to. And I'm assuming that they're going to bake LL, like you mentioned, into other events like PT or even part of ProQuest season, whatever the case may be. They're going to give LL a shot. They're going to give it a good, honest shot for probably 6 months or so for the rest of the year, maybe even a little bit into next year. And then they might, make the decision. Is it worth pursuing? Should we taper back on it? Whatever. But I mean, you got to respect them at least taking the shot. I do think it's a little early, my opinion, but I do got to, is what it is. Bingo. I'm glad to hear someone gets it. I don't know what you're referencing, DM Armada, but I'm glad. I don't know what part you were referencing. I guess timing wise, that would maybe them not ever trying to balance LL, maybe. I don't know. Can't wait to have 6K index in Philly just so I can get robbed at gunpoint. I mean, versus knife point in London? Which one's worse? I guess you only had 2K index in London. I see what you're saying. Yeah, don't leave your backpack in your car. That's all I'm gonna say. I think it would be cool to have World's winner per format, or maybe a young key. The only downside to that is then, like, who is the world champion, right? Is it just whoever wins the CC portion? Like, it does sound cool, but it does kind of tamper down a little bit of the prestige behind the event, right? Because also, if they did it that way, a lot of people would just give up formats, right? Like, if I wanted to be the super duper LL person, then I would like not play a game of CC or limited, right? I would just like giga focus on that. And it makes all the other ones a lot less competitive as well. A legacy format? No, I think they were going to a legacy format, realized people didn't want that right now, and they're tapering back. Because what they originally came out with, like, hey, this is the format where everybody can just do dumb shit. That sounds like legacy, right? Oh, I got my formats mixed. I didn't play MTG, so you'll have to forgive me. Vintage was first, and now it's more like legacy. You're right. Okay. My apologies. You're 100% right. Obviously, I don't play MTG. I did play Magic Arena for like 1 week. I played mono white, and yeah, it was alright. But anything good. Adding a format kind of indirectly translates to having to prep for matchups in an added format. I feel like LL getting more embraced for rotated events means that they have to scrutinize them. Oh yeah, they're gonna have to balance it, and we got to give them the opportunity to. I think they tried before Chicago. No, I don't think they did. I think that going into Chicago, I don't think the image of LL was a super balanced format. I think the image of LL was, this is the format where people are going to do dumb shit. Right? Or else they would not allow a ton of stuff, right? They wouldn't allow Chain doing what he's doing. They wouldn't let Starvo. If you were not playing Starvo or Chain at that event, you're just wrong. You are factually wrong. There was such a disparity between those two heroes and everybody else. And I think they let that happen because it was just going to be the format to, and then they just tailored the expectation. I don't think they failed. I think they didn't try. I mean, I guess depending on how you interpret it, it could be. I genuinely don't think they've ever tried to seriously balance LO yet. Man, I agree. 100% on board with you. No, 100%. I think their job is just to keep out ridiculousness. Of course. They need a team dedicated to only banning cards in LL. I don't think you understand how much a dev does. I mean, they have to do. You couldn't dedicate one person to just banning LL cards, like much less a team. They have to do so many things, right? A ton of things. By the way, I just want to go ahead and put it all out there that next week is the big one. Okay, everybody? Next week, we're doing the high C's new format Nats tier list. We're going to hop straight into it next week. I'm not going to play around. We're just going to do it. People been asking, and I just have to deliver. That, and it's literally my only weekend I can possibly do it, because the Wednesday after that, I'll be in Vegas, because, it is what it is. I volunteer to play LL all day at LSS to test and ban cards. I mean, well, hey, shoot them an email. They have to continuously ban and unban so many cards to balance LL, which seems counter to the book. And that was my initial point, right? Is like, if you do that, then we're literally just playing CC with more hero selection and a little bit higher power. Is like what the end result could be, right? And maybe that is a success. Maybe there's a demographic of player, like somebody that likes Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that, where that appeals to them, and maybe it's completely valid. I don't know. I don't have the data to formulate a very strong opinion on it. If I did, I'd love to, but I just don't. It's a little scary to not have a track record of a balanced L format and to add it to Worlds. Yes, it is a ballsy move. 100% agree. And you are right, or you are valid in being concerned about it. But we got to give him a shot, right? I mean, I'm right there with you. I have no clue how they are going to get Reinar at an appropriate power level for LL. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how you could take all his cards away and he's literally just too good. Literally. Bet LGSs will have an Armory Day and an LL Day in the future. I mean, that's probably like the ideal setup, right? I mean, that's what the MTG shops do, right? Wasn't back in the day, wasn't Friday Night Magic like standard, and then you'd have like Modern Mondays, or I think I've heard people mention terms like that. I once again, I never went to those, so I don't know. But I mean, I'm sure that's the end goal. The only concern is, are they trying to achieve that a little too early? And it's, like you would have to trace it. You can't look at Magic, and the problem is you can't really look at Magic back in the day either. What I was going to say is you can't look at Magic in the late 2000s or the 2010s and say this is how they did it, in the heyday of the Pro Tours and all of that. You can't do that because the game had been around for 20 years at that point. But also you can't go back to Magic in like 1996 or whenever it came out and look at it like 5 years, because Flesh and Blood's only 5 years old. You can't take Magic, add 5 years, and then compare it to Fab. You can't do that because we are in vastly different situations. And it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. I lost my spot. I can't with the staple prices. I mean, you know, I'm not too happy with the price either, but I mean, we're just gonna have to. This is a luxury cardboard game. 0-3. I mean, Pierre, what are you worried about? You're going to be playing side events anyway. You're probably going to have to be playing just to get your tickets. You're going to have to be playing LL. So I don't know why you, out of all people, why are you worried? There's a good chance that LL at Worlds is going to be on day 2. We can like kind of just take that guess, and you ain't going to be there. What are you talking about, Pierre? You're going to be trying to get a jumbo card. Got it. Oh, shit. God. Don't think my mic is working. Oh, no. Good story. Oh, man. Vintage, all cards legal. And you can play Black Lotus. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Eugene can do it. I mean, if anybody can. Does anyone have a particular color that is there? All of Sigil, man. I bet all of Team Sigil is sitting in their Discord right now, just taking turns assigning people to type in chat. When you figure out what Project Brown is, you let me know. Actually, I do know, but I can't say it. Vera told me in a DM. Some LGS in our area run commoner nights, less number of participants as usual CC armor. I mean, all those formats, it's always going to be less than the premier format, right? But like, you know, people need different ways to enjoy the game. Like that's just how it is. Turn the mic. I mean, I haven't touched anything. Turn your mic up. I have not changed anything, bro. And it's still reading into the red, bro. Do you think the 0.5 multiplier will be good or worse? Okay, that's the last thing. We went off on quite the tangent. We need to go over the point changes, right? That's the one thing that we haven't. Now, there's a couple of concerns here that's pretty interesting. I think the first one's very valid, right? It prevents the Aurora situation from happening again, right? And oh man, Jesus, everybody's going in on it. It prevents the Aurora situation, obviously, from leaving too early, post the armory deck. We woke up all 8 of my children. Holy cow, that's a lot. 8? Woo. Sheesh. It prevents the Aurora situation, which is ideal. I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with the fact that like the Aurora situation shouldn't happen, right? However, it does present the argument that doing this means that you no longer have protection from Living Legend to balance the game, right? You're giving up that capability. So if you break something with a new hero, you have to adjust quickly. The one thing that I would kind of hint at is, if you did that correctly, do you need the points to be halved? Right? Like if I don't know. And I think Josh did the math on whether the total LL solution would result in hero bloat or not, and it does. Because historically, over the past several sets, most of the LL, yes, there are more heroes that are multiplied by 1.5 rather than halved, but most of the points are going to the halved. So it would result in hero bloat. Bloat is like basically how it would go down. And so like, I understand why this is here. It does protect from the negative thing that most recently had. It accomplishes that. But it requires them to be on top of their shit, and there is no argument to be made to where if they were on top of their shit, do they need this to be halved? Perfectly valid argument. Very logical. And then at this point, the 1.5, I don't think the problem with this scenario is it requires so much context that we don't know. Like, we've heard, I don't want to say that I'm quoting. I just remember somebody from LSS saying that the ideal like number of heroes was like, I don't know, 30, something like that. And like we're getting close to breaking 40, right? If we haven't already. And it's interesting because if you were to apply the system, if we did our math right, it would result in hero bloat, which is going to kind of, exacerbate that problem basically. So now we're prepping for 40 matchups instead of 30, or this technically it doesn't infinitely scale, but it approaches a number. I don't know what the number is. It would basically be actually no, it does approach infinite, right? Like, theoretically, if most of the points went toward the newer heroes, which their design as of recent would suggest, then yes, we would approach an infinite number of heroes, because for every X that come in, the points would be halved, which is a lot. Like, I think they did this solution too quickly. Yes, it solves the Aurora problem, but I can't think of any analogy where multiplying anything by a scaling factor, which is what this is, you are scaling by 50% either way, or applying no scale at all. There's no situation where that truly solves anything. All you're doing is you're taking a number and you're scaling it down or up. Like, yes, it prevents that situation from happening again. But outside of that particular context, the problem is your point distribution is wrong, your system is wrong on how they're accrued. There's an underlying problem. And multiplying something by a percentage is never going to solve that. Ever. Period. It just, that's not how it works. So I do wish, I'm not saying that this is bad, but I wish they would have taken a little bit more time on this. This has nothing to do with LL being at Worlds. This has, it's completely irrelevant in this. It did not have to be. If they left this portion off of this announcement, nobody would have asked about it. Nobody would have said, but what about my LL points? Nobody would have cared. I wish they would have taken a little bit more time. I feel like this was rushed a little bit. I'm not saying it's a bad solution. I'm saying there's got to be something better. I don't know what it is. And I wish we did a stream. You can go back and listen to it on like suggestions and stuff like that on kind of like how, so we came up with some ideas on like how to do it. On the same note, gives a fun period where they can print a card for a new hero that makes an old hero very powerful, but also will be a problem for just a small time. Just food for thought. Is that an ideal situation? Is it ideal to juice up a hero and then have him leave quickly? Is that what we're trying to accomplish with the older heroes? I would argue not. But I mean, maybe it is. Maybe as long as people have a certain amount of time with their hero while the hero is good, maybe it makes them happy as a player. Maybe that's the equation. And then that would solve it, I guess. Really just depends. I'd argue that CYB leaving chunks a lot of viability of those C tier heroes anyway, and they will win less events without I 100% agree with you. It hits all the warriors, it hits the guardians until the mastery pack comes out. I'm fairly sure the idea is to have heroes have a CC legality time more similar to each other, but it doesn't work that way. If you look at it on surface value, that's exactly how it would work, right? It would even things out. The problem is, I'll give you an example. If we took Olympia and we multiplied the points that Olympia acquired by 100, every time he won a pro quest, he'd get 300 points or whatever. Does he LL any faster? No. Because he's not getting any fucking points. Any number times 0 will always be 0. Period. So the heroes that are not winning anything are going to stay there. It is a fact. You can multiply it by 40. You can multiply it by 60. It does not matter. And so, and this is magnified by the aspect that if you had a situation where every hero acquired 20 points evenly, then this maybe would make sense. But if 80% of the points are flowing into the halved and 20% are flowing into the no multiplier or multiply by 1.5, you're not evenly distributing anything. All this is doing is stopping the Aurora situation from happening. That is all this does. That is like the net result. The mathematical equation for this change is you are gaining protection from the Aurora situation, and you are on the negative side is you are adding hero bloat. That is this announcement completely solved. That is what's happening. Nothing more, nothing less. That's it. That is literally everything. I wonder if we're going to have another depowering cycle considering how poorly received the last one was. Don't hold your breath. If you look at how that was not a success, and this is the sad part, is And I'm not saying that. Let's go off the assumption that the depowering situation of the game was positive for the game. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying, for the sake of this argument, let's assume it was positive. There's zero chance that you are going to look at the success of heavy hitters and on and look at the low that was what preceded it and say, yeah, let's do that again. Nobody at that company is making that decision. James ain't going to make it. It's not going to happen. Whether the net result was healthy in some aspect, I don't know how you make it. It's like, yes, I want to grade my product for 3 more months. I don't see anybody having the fortitude to make that call. That is I'm happy to be wrong, but that is a tough call to make. To be on so much success from like a sales throughput, games growing, and you're like, yeah, we need to power down the set for balance reasons, or we could just keep doing what we're doing, and it's really work. Like, there's no argument to go back, especially because that can't be presented in data. If we get more sets with support for heroes, like Guardian, then are we on a path where old heroes are getting away faster? That's a tough question. And I'm very curious of what the end product line looks like for LSS. I'm very interested. I'm gonna dive a little bit into this. I'm very interested in what the final product line looks like, because it's growing astronomically, right? Like, you have first strike decks, you have Armory decks, you have Armory Origin decks, you have Armory LL decks, you have normal set releases, you have just so many different products. And we're going to have to do a little humbling here, maybe. Given the current environment of other card games, we're talking Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever the case may be, it makes sense to have that much product for those other games on. You have a amount of shelf space if you're a store, if you're an LGS. And it's a lot of products. It is a lot of products. And I don't mean that in a negative way, as far as, do they warrant that type of shelf space or not? And maybe the release structure is designed in a way to where it's not meant to all be on the shelf at the same time. And that would be a very smart way to do it. Because the biggest problem in an LGS that Fab is currently having, in my opinion, is proving itself, right? It has the best game mechanics of any TCG, period. You can try to argue that, but I think you lose it every time. It is the best card game as far from a mechanics standpoint. The problem is not every player knows that. And you have to convince the shop owner to say, okay, let me take this thing that's selling really well, I can't even keep it on the shelf, and let me put something else there that's not doing that. Especially when you have situations like the Aurora LL deck and things like that. The shelf space is quite the concern when you're releasing that many products. But just because it's competitive doesn't mean you shouldn't try, right? And actually, you can actually leverage the advantage of the other stuff flying off the shelf really quickly, and you can fill that space for almost no cost. And maybe that's the angle. Could entirely, makes sense to me. 1.5 modifier is unnecessary. They could just intentionally break heroes they want and be. Yeah, I agree. What else do you think could have been done to prevent future problems like what we saw with Aurora? Just more action, right? There's one thing that I've noticed. Anytime Brian does an interview or anything like that, or a dev talk or something, I try to watch it. Do my best to watch 90% of them. And I don't think he's done an interview where he hasn't mentioned the word data at least 7 times in the interview. And so everything, it seems that him and the company are taking a very data-driven approach on a lot of avenues, right? And the problem with data, and it's not a problem because data is one of the best tools that you could ever utilize for any scenario. What you have to understand is data tells a story, and the story has context. And if you don't actively look for things that go against what you want the outcome to be, you can remove all benefits very easily of analyzing data, and actually cause damage. I'm going to make up a hypothetical situation. Let's say Taipei just sold out, right? You could look at the data and say they have no more tickets. It's sold out. The marketing campaign was a success. The spoiler season was a success. The set was a success. Everything, the location was perfect. You could look at the data and come to that logical conclusion. But there's some things that you can't, it's very hard to quantify, but there are ways to do it. What if, and once again, this is just strictly hypothetical, but what if 40% of those sales were people literally just trying to get product for their nationals? What if that's why they're there? What if it's not for the hype? What if it's not for, this reason or that reason or what? And I'm not suggesting that that's the case. I'm just trying to paint a picture here. And you might say, well, Nathan, there's no way to prove that, so why would you even consider it? And that's a fair point, but I would argue that there is a lot of ways you can prove that. You can look at the sales throughput, right? And if it's very steady, or what it would typically look like, the sales volume for an event should look like this. It would be a huge spike, and then it would just kind of linearly almost go down. Is what it would look like. That would be the event is announced, people are hyped about it, they buy their tickets, and then people that are second guessing or have to make plans sign up along the way. And it just narrows down along the end. If you look at that line and you notice an increase around the time when it started circulating that there's distribution issues and stuff like that, there's your sign, right? The problem is that you have to be willing to look into the data to find that. Whereas it's very easy to say, oh, it's a massive success because it's sold out, right? I don't need anything else. I don't need no more data. I don't need to look at the data, right? I got the result I wanted. Let's move on. And I'm not saying that happened. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is data can be very dangerous. And in the Aurora situation, to circle back to your point, what should have been done if you're taking a data-driven approach is Aurora, during the last either RTN or ProQuest season, not this most recent one, but the one before, was widely considered not even close to the best deck, right? Like solid A tier, but nobody said she was on top, like nobody. But yet she won the most because she was just so represented. Okay? So if you have that data point and you have a product releasing and that hero's already achieved 500 living legend points, your data-driven solution would be to, whether you think the hero was overpowered or not, you have to trim it down, because popularity plus power is going to result in more wins. It's a very easy conclusion to come to. And when you do that, now it sucks, right? Because you have to factor in the other considerations. Now you have to hit a hero that is about to release an armory deck. It's not a good business decision, right? But the inverse isn't good either, right? So now you have to start weighing those decisions, and you have to say, okay, do we have that high octane situation where we ban it afterwards, or like we start getting into the weeds there, right? But it's a tough spot, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Sorry, I went on like a deep tangent there. I'm trying to get caught up in chat. Nathan, when you be at World Premiere Montreal, depends on the set, but it's not that far. I'd kind of be down for it. Mm-hmm. Mm. Sorry, I'm getting caught up in chat. I think the idea is the older heroes are less competitive than the newer ones. And yeah, 100%. Won't have a roster of 90 heroes because of point discount. I mean, that is where the trend would go if nothing goes unchanged, right? If all the power is in the new heroes, then yes, that is the trajectory we are headed on. Unless something else is Dang, Nathan calling out Olympia like that is exactly why you ain't finding the cold side of it. Oh man, gonna end up on a leash. Sunset Heroes after 5 years. It kind of goes against the thematic aspect of acquiring a living legend status. I don't know. I'd rather not have it. If I'm going to do that, I guess you could rebrand it and not be a living legend. You would just formally call it a rotation. But you lose all thematic aspect if you do that. I think the issue we're having right now is part of the depower. And it very well could be. It entirely could be. The 2 sets post depower was very fun format. Was it worth it? Not sure of that. I mean, I thought heavy hitters, like people were having a blast. Put me on the mic. I got some shit to say. That was pretty good. Is that Matt W? Is that who M is? I think that's Matt W. I could be wrong. Thumbnail game went up, but the new modern look isn't up my alley. What do you mean by modern look? Are you referring to like the new logo? or just like what are we talking? I love the feedback, by the way. I think the best part of this update is the openness to review the change and adjust or remove if necessary. I agree. I would like them to redo sets like Outsiders where only half the heroes are new and they get to support old heroes that struggle. Do you think they are going to drop product for old heroes so they can have the opportunity to LL quicker with the new multiple? I mean, isn't that what they're doing with the Guardian Mastery Pack, right? Isn't that effectively what it is? If it does its job, depending on what the job even is, I don't know. I guess I would assume the job of Guardian Mastery Pack is to juice Guardian, right? I would like to make that assumption. And I don't know. L needs to be just a casual format, not a competitive. It's interesting that you say that because at the end of the day, this goes against a lot of my beliefs, but at the end of the day, LSS should have a vision. Okay? LSS should have a vision. And a good amount of that vision, no matter what the community says, no matter how logical the community is in their presentation of criticism or whatever the case may be, a certain amount of that vision cannot change. You have to I'm not saying all of it. You can adapt the vision, but the core of the vision has to be, you cannot let the community, no matter how convincing they are, change it. Because then you basically go down a slippery slope where the community is just designing your game, right? And making your steps forward. And, are you really making the choices? And it becomes a slippery slope. So, and LL, I think, in my opinion, is a part of that. I think no matter what the community decides they want or not, they have to present the idea that they think it should be. Really give it a good go. And if it doesn't pan out, then it's up to them to abandon ship, right? But in regards to LL, they haven't given it a good go. And if they do and it doesn't work out, then they'll get our feedback and they'll move on. Fab is growing quickly, it seems, though. It does. Although I would be interested in how that is quantified. There's more views, sure. There's more product demand, but there's also less product being printed. So I don't know. I do believe it's growing. I'm 100% on board with that idea, but how much? I would like a better way to quantify it. I think the change is also indicative of LSS wanting to oust heroes that cause design problems like Reinar and Kano. It could also tell us that they are going to release products to boost older heroes. I mean, maybe. But I don't know. I miss the design cycle of releasing a hero at middle power and then them getting boosted over time through an armory deck. And I agree. The problem is one is more profitable. One induces more hype. There is a reason that TCGs have power creep. It's to keep players engaged. You can look at bright lights and how people crack shuffled and played something else, and you can easily delineate that you have to give players something better every set. You have to. Now, how much? That's where the juice is, right? That's like How much do you do it a little bit? Do you overshoot like MST? Whatever the case may be, right? But you have to go up a little bit, theoretically, from a business perspective. I don't have enough TCG knowledge to understand the longevity impacts of the low power input. I was there, I felt it. It was a little worrisome going into it, but coming out of it felt amazing. Like heavy hitters error, like just coming out of that. Oh, it was phenomenal. It was great. But I don't know. But at the same time, James, who gives all the conceptual design and direction, he's a passion driven guy, and that's perfectly fine. Are we making a tier list of the bands? Not yet. Something interesting is conflict between bands and sales. What I want to know is if armory mistake happens again, will they learn and ban? I would hope. The problem is that they've built in an incentive to where they don't have to act as fast. that is the problem. And we'll see. We will see. Maybe make a tier list of LSS decisions. Okay, we're actually gonna do that. Not tonight, because we've been going for almost 2 hours. After Nats, I love that idea. We're gonna do that. The problem is it's gonna take a shit ton of homework because I have to go back and go through like a history of LSS decisions, and I love that idea. I'm gonna do that. The Wednesday after Nats, LSS decision tier list. That's kind of based. I like that. There's only one. They're only going to Taipei for walked like a dog. It's terrible. Can't let Will do that to you. They said they might not even end up keeping the LLC. And that's what I mean. Like it all depends on what their vision is, what they want to accomplish, right? Instead of loving Legend, it's like dead dumpster fire. I mean, it's a little aggressive. Honestly, I wish they added some point total that triggers some sort of point gain reduction for a hero instead of a blanket 0.5. That's just seems like a pain in the ass to keep up with, to be honest with you. And how do you like document that week to week during ProQuest and stuff like that? Oh man, Aurora just hit the not so living legend lever multiplier, and she'll be at 0.25 during week 5. Make a sick Twitter post. Oh man. Heavy hitters had some power, but also had the most fair classes. That is true. That is actually very true. Heavy hitters was one of the best metas we've ever had in the entirety of the game. Changed my mind. I don't hate that premise. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll put it that way. I didn't want the meta to be like that for way too long because it did get very Excel format, very super mid-range soup kind of situation. But it was like for the first 2 months, it was great. Maybe like intentionally set that up again and then hit it with a ban or something like that. That'd be cool. Six hero sets with 3 new and 3 old would be great. I think reprinting old heroes and new sets is a thing of the past, especially with this change. Unfortunately, that's actually the easiest way to manage the hero bloat, though. Like, Rhinar coming into the meta or into the game again saved him a hero, right? Like, theoretically. The worst decision was LL in Worlds. I thought we moved past 3 format tournaments. I mean, They're trying something. They're trying something. This change also opens a design door. For example, they want to make a busted wizard card that makes Cecilia Verdance better, but breaks Kano. But I don't know. I never think that's the answer. I don't think you should ever break the game just so this person like when you do like when I was reading that, the first thing that went to my mind was when Fi came out and he had access to stubby hammers. And they decided to let it go, even though they said they knew about it. And they just let Fi with stubby hammers play at a calling in Europe. I forget the location. And I don't know what it was, but like, in my opinion, it kind of just invalidates the tournament. I could be entirely wrong for thinking of it in that way, but that's the way my mind works. I'm like, okay, they let us try something that was known to be broken and it just invalidates it. Like the result does not matter. It was kind of set up, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Post heavy hitters with Chef's Kiss. Pretty good. Pretty good. Heavy hitters meta was a very toxic wizard meta and a bad meta. I don't know. Dustblade, we made a mistake. S tier. You know, I agree 100% with that, but I'll save that. I'll save my comment for the upcoming tier list. In the decision tier list, make sure to give them credit for air freighting Monarch to get to stores in time for pre-release. Did that really happen? That's wild if they did. I had no idea. Any games tonight? Unfortunately, no. We've been going for 2 hours. Probably going to call it here shortly. I'm gonna finish up chat, kind of wrap up some thoughts. Best meta was Uprising, Briar, Fi, Oldham, Dromai, Icelander. Those were the days. My favorite meta would have to be I think you're right. I think my favorite would be Outsiders. You had Prism just left. So Icelander was able to like show up, do her thing. The Bullander, like you take that meta and apply the changes that should have happened on Icelander, like hypo and stuff like that, and Amulet of Ice, and we got like a really good meta. Just as an idea, how bad would it be to make season-long bans? Either cards, weapons, or even hero? No, you can never ban a hero because then you alienate your player base. Weapons should be treated as cards. There's no real distinction between them as far as a ban's concerned. Either you need to ban it or not. For a I mean, they've technically done that. Like they'll see something as a problem, they'll say banned until this hero LLs. Like Bonds, right? Bonds was banned for 2 seasons. You know? I had the best idea for LL system, but Brian wouldn't listen. When the heroes come out, they're on probation for 3 months until the next main set releases. While on probation, they don't earn points. But thematically, that means that they're getting this performance and it doesn't accumulate. So you remove the thematic aspect of Living Legend. They are doing what would get them to achieve a Living Legend status Like, if you make a change like that, thematically, you just have to say, this is fucking rotation. This isn't living legend. We're not going to give it a fancy name. We're going to say, our game has rotation. That's it. LSS takes the thematic aspect of everything very, very seriously. You see it in the mechanics. You see, loading arrows into arsenal as pulling the bowstring back. I mean, so many aspects. They take the thematic aspect of the game very, very serious. So if you are not ascending to living legend, then there will be no living legend. It'll just be rotation, or they'll make up some terminology, whatever, right? They're really good about that stuff, and for good reason. I'm saying that as a positive. Like, I agree. I don't want to call something this grandiose, and it's just fucking heroes timing out. Like, I don't know. Living Legend is part of future PQs. Do you think we'll see a format as part of a PT? Yeah, 100%. I think they almost have to trial run it before throwing it into Worlds. At least at more callings or battle hardens or stuff. They have to keep pushing it. My idea would mean that there's something bust comes out. Yeah, but you lose the, I don't know. They did that with High Octane Dio that made everyone have to make their Worlds deck be either beat Dio or fatigue her. But all decks had to have a game plan into her. That is correct. Agreed. I want LSS to have every tool available to them to hit power exactly how they want to and avoid another Katsu fiasco. Exactly. You can effectively ban a hero via banning important cards. That is true. Then removing CYB because of life gain is too strong means we need more ice back to slow things down instead. Belittle ban ended the golden age meta. Nah, Belittle was a problem. I gotta admit. It was a problem. Because Belittle got hit the same ban that Hypo did, if I'm not mistaken. So the meta post that before Lexi was like, that was the juice. How do you feel about hero-specific bans in LL? The idea would be to treat it more like a fighting game. I'm not opposed to it, right? Because like Runeblade, if you play Runeblade, like the ban announcement, you just got dicked on, right? Like, I mean, Vinny can only play one second. Like, I mean, you basically rendered Vincent useless in LL in one swipe, like just done. So I even Dirge hitting Viscerai, like there's a lot of collateral here. And because there's less events for Living Legend, maybe that's the format where you do hero specific bans. Maybe. I don't know. There's a point of friction there. I'm not going to ignore it. But if there was ever a time they were going to do it, I think they do it in Living Legend first. I'm still sad about the book bans. I mean, yeah, it'd be like that. All right. Well, we have been talking for quite some time. I want to remind everybody that next week is the big one. We're doing the tier list. Next week on Wednesday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Last time we got up to 500 people at one time. Let's see if we can break it. I'm looking forward to it. This one's a bit of a doozy. I'm going to have to go into the lab for quite some time, playing a lot of games, a lot more than I'm usually playing, to get a really good understanding of what's going on with these new heroes, because they are not... It's a lot more difficult than the Hunted as far as like how to... Part of it is because, well, guess what? I've only seen half the fucking set because of the release schedule. But you can only do with what you got. And currently I got nothing. So I basically have to solve a meta and prepare for my nationals in a week and a half. So good luck to me. No, I have to solve the meta in 4 days, right? Because the cards will be released on Friday. I'll have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days to crack the meta and produce a adequate tier list, which means we're going to find a way to do it. We don't half-ass the tier list. They're never perfect, but they're the best you're going to get. I can guarantee that. And so we're gonna give it our best, and we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out one way or another. Or you'll play aggro. that is a fair assumption. That is a fair assumption. And but yeah, we're gonna do our best, and I am looking forward to seeing everybody joining me on Wednesday. It's always just a fantastic time. I love the direction of the tier list I've done lately, where it kind of turns into me just roasting the shit heroes. I've really been enjoying it because I just love a good roast, right? And it's really the chat seems to enjoy it. They're laughing, everybody's having a good time. There's also information that is of value, and it's good information that's bound by some version of data or logic, and everybody just kind of we did see the distro news. We went over it at the very beginning of the stream. If you want to go back and check that out, we did go over it 100%. And it is what it is. But I appreciate everybody for joining me today, and I will hopefully see everybody next week for the big one. And I hope everybody has a good weekend. Please watch the world premiere if the time zones allow. I'm pretty sure Ethan's probably going to be doing coverage on that. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next week.